Growing up, my dad owned a small but respected construction company. He was the definition of blue-collar pride, believed in hard work, long hours, and earning your keep with your hands. Me? I wasn't like that. I liked books. I liked numbers. I liked logic puzzles and tax law and data entry, the things that made my dad roll his eyes so hard he'd nearly pull a muscle. When I declared my major in forensic accounting, he laughed. "You're getting a degree to count other people's money? You think anyone needs that?" I shrugged it off. I always told myself it didn't matter, that I didn't need his approval, but when he stopped inviting me to company meetings, when he started calling me the academic like it was an insult, yeah, it stung. Especially when he started bringing my younger brother Josh to the office every week. Josh, who never finished community college but was good with tools and never talked back. "You're just not cut out for this business, son," my dad said one Thanksgiving, carving the turkey like he was making a point. "Didn't say I wanted to be," I replied. He didn't believe me. Or maybe he did. And that was the real problem. After graduation, I took a job at a mid-sized firm out of state. Boring work, long hours, but I was good at it. Within 2 years, I was leading compliance audits for companies twice the size of my dad's. Every time I visited home, it was the same passive-aggressive routine. "So, you still doing spreadsheets? Still chasing other people's mistakes? Real men don't need safety nets, son." It didn't bother me, not as much anyway, because for the first time in my life, I didn't need him. Then, about 6 months ago, I got a call from my mom. "Your dad's office got a letter from the IRS. He won't say what it is, but he's been in a bad mood ever since." I offered to talk to him. "He doesn't want your help," she said. "You know how he is." I did, so I left it alone. 2 weeks later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I answered. "Is this Ryan Carter?" "Yes." "This is James Heller, IRS auditor. You're listed as an emergency financial contact for Carter & Sons Construction." I blinked. "Wait, I'm listed where?" "Your name was handwritten on a recent document submitted by the business. We have an upcoming audit scheduled in 10 days. We need someone familiar with the company's finances." My father, the same man who said my degree was useless, had written my name down as his emergency contact for a federal audit. He hadn't called me, hadn't said a word. But he needed me, and now? Now it was my turn to decide what that was worth. I flew home that weekend. I didn't tell my dad I was coming. I figured if he was willing to handwrite my name on IRS documents, he could deal with me showing up unannounced. When I walked into Carter & Sons Construction on Monday morning, the receptionist, a woman I vaguely remembered from childhood, blinked at me like she'd seen a ghost. "Ryan, you working here now?" "Just visiting," I said, offering a tight smile. "Is my dad in?" She hesitated. "He's in a mood." Of course he was. When I stepped into his office, my dad barely looked up. "You didn't need to come all this way." "Pretty sure I did," I said, dropping my coat over the back of a chair. "The IRS seems to think so." That got his attention. He finally met my eyes. "It's just a misunderstanding, some paperwork mix-up. We've had audits before." I crossed my arms. "Yeah? And how many of those involved you putting my name on your forms?" He looked annoyed. Not guilty, just irritated that I knew. "I thought maybe you'd know how to explain some things if they asked." "You mean lie?" "No, I mean interpret." "Typical. I asked for full access to their books." He waved toward the back office. The books were a cardboard box filled with manila folders, coffee-stained invoices, and a thumb drive with no label, no central ledger, no cloud software. Just a decade of patchwork bookkeeping and blind trust. "Who's your accountant?" I asked. "Anna, Josh's girlfriend. She does taxes for her mom's salon." Jesus Christ. Over the next 3 hours, I saw it all. Unreported subcontractors paid in cash, personal expenses charged to the business, an entire quarter's payroll, missing from the documentation. A loan from Josh listed as income, not liability. If they'd been audited 5 years ago, the business would have folded. Now, It might still. I called my dad into the room. You've been flying blind. This isn't just sloppy. It's reckless. They're going to tear this apart. He crossed his arms. We've always done it this way. And we've always been fine. No, you've always been lucky. He clenched his jaw. Don't talk to me like I'm an idiot. This company put food on your plate growing up. I know. And I'm trying to make sure it still puts food on anyone's plate after next week. He didn't thank me, but he didn't kick me out either. That night, I slept in my childhood room. Same posters, same faded carpet, same creaky mattress, and for the first time, I didn't feel like the black sheep. I felt like the only adult in the house. The IRS audit began on a Tuesday at 9 a.m. sharp. James Heller, the same agent who called me, showed up in a gray suit with a neutral expression and a leather briefcase that looked like it hadn't aged a day since the Reagan era. My dad was wearing jeans and a polo with the company logo embroidered crooked on the chest. He looked like he was heading to a job site, not a financial inquisition. I handled introductions. Mr. Heller, this is my father, Don Carter, owner and founder of Carter & Sons Construction. Heller gave him a firm handshake and a polite nod. Pleasure. Shall we begin? The meeting room had been cleared for us, a small glass-walled space off the main floor. I had spent the last 4 nights building spreadsheets, organizing receipts, and reconstructing the last 3 years of ledgers using a combination of bank statements and intuition. Heller pulled out a file. Thick, clipped, official. We're primarily concerned with contractor misclassification, unreported cash payments, and deductions claimed for non-business expenses. Let's begin with your 1099 forms from 2 years ago. I had those, color-coded and cross-referenced. My dad tried to speak. Look, we pay our guys. I cut him off gently. Dad, I got it. He sat back, silent, arms folded, jaw tight. Heller flipped through the documents. This is thorough, he muttered. That was the first win. Over the next 4 hours, I answered every question, corrected every red flag, flagged every line item I couldn't vouch for, and clearly labeled them as historical, not current. When it came time to review the company truck listed as a client transportation vehicle, despite it being registered to my dad personally, I slid over my printed addendum explaining the discrepancy and the amended documentation I had prepared in advance. Heller raised an eyebrow, impressed. You've done this before. I do forensic audits for a living. My dad stayed quiet. By 2:30 p.m., the meeting ended. Heller stood, slid his file back into the briefcase, and looked between me and my dad. This company was on the edge of a compliance cliff. I'll be honest. If your son hadn't organized this, it wouldn't have gone well. He turned to me. I'll be in touch. But you saved them a lot of grief. I nodded. That was the goal. After Heller left, my dad and I sat in silence. The room suddenly felt smaller. He finally broke it. I didn't know it was that bad. You didn't want to know. He looked down at the table. I should have called you sooner. I didn't say anything. Because the truth was, he didn't think I was useful until I became necessary. Later that evening, as I packed my laptop, he lingered by the door. If you wanted to look over the books every now and then, maybe stay involved. I wouldn't mind. It wasn't an apology, but for my dad, it was damn close. I didn't say yes right away. When my dad asked me to stay involved, to look over the books now and then, I told him I'd think about it, because part of me was still that kid he once mocked for choosing accounting over construction. The one who was wasting tuition on a desk job. The one he didn't even invite to the last few company barbecues. And now suddenly, I was valuable. I wasn't sure how I felt about that. Back in the city, I returned to my job. Audits, consulting, late nights, spreadsheets. The usual, but something had shifted. I found myself checking the company's new cloud-based ledger I'd set up for my dad. I reviewed their monthly reports. I even called Anna, yes, Josh's girlfriend, and walked her through QuickBooks Online so she could stop using a literal receipt shoebox. Eventually, I offered to set up quarterly reviews, no charge. He accepted every time. 3 months after the audit, I got a text from my dad. Dad, you in town next weekend? Me, yeah, why? Dad, barbecue at the shop. You should come. I almost ignored it, but I went. When I arrived, the usual crowd was there. Dusty trucks, greasy tools, guys in Carhartts with beer cans in hand. I expected to be the odd one out, like always. Instead, Josh called out first. Hey, numbers guys here? One of the older crew members clapped me on the back. You're the reason we didn't shut down, huh? My dad stood by the grill, flipping burgers. For a second, I didn't think he'd say anything. Then, without looking at me, he said, Ryan handles all our books now. Cleanest they've ever been? I froze. Not because it was dramatic, but because he said it like it was obvious, like it had always been true, like I'd always belonged. After everyone left, I helped him carry chairs back inside. He stopped at the doorway. You know, I didn't get it before. Your degree, your job, the way you do things. He scratched his head. But I see it now. You saved my ass, and I don't think I ever said thank you. I nodded. You just did. I didn't need him to beg or break down. I didn't want revenge or an apology tour. I just wanted to be seen, not as a disappointment, not as a backup plan, but as someone who built something too. He built with his hands. I built with my mind. And now, finally, he saw the value in both.